School Committee tonight, August 2nd at 6:31 p.m. now. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you could all mute and you can rise if you choose and recite along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible. And I'm blanking. Oh my God, I was just distracted. I'm sorry, everybody.
Liberty.
Hold on. Don't stop. Don't move. I'm going to get it right. I promise you. Okay. I'm going to start from the beginning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, guys. This old teacher's been in summer mode for too long, I guess. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you guys know, the special meeting of the Neshoba Regional School Committee is for MSBA business, but we do have a couple of things that we're going to take care of before we get there. The first thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. And so I am going to try to handle the motions myself. Alita, I don't see that motion in the minutes, or rather in the document, so I'm just going to kind of wing it on my own, if you don't mind.
It's the minutes of June 15th, meeting 2, and
Yep.
the minutes of July 18th, 2023. No warrants.
No warrants. All right, so I'm going to I make a motion to approve the consent agenda for the meeting minutes of June 15th, 2023. That is meeting 2. And the draft meeting minutes of July 18th, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
I think I heard Mike first. So is there any discussion on these minutes? I am not seeing any. Please jump out if I can't see you.
No, but I just want to let you know, Leah, I'm sorry. I was having some technical issues, but I appear to be they're resolved, so I can read the motions from now
You're
on.
here.
So,
awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm not seeing any. Oh, is that Laura's hand? No, nope. Just kidding. It was my hand. All right, guys. So that said, we're going to take the roll. So I vote yes. Amy Cohen.
Yes. Yep.
Is frozen for me.
Yes.
Yes. Mike Korish.
Okay.
Yes.
Dana.
Yes.
Shondor.
Yes.
Amy V.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Sharon.
Yes.
Karen. I think that was a yes. All right. Jackie.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
And I think that's everyone. All right, everyone. So that's the consent agenda. For the school committee chairperson update, I inserted this just to remind you guys of 2 quick things. The first thing is that our retreat is coming up at the end of August, August 23rd. Alita just emailed the menu to you all. So if you guys could respond to her about that. This is one of the perks. We all get to sit and break bread together. So that is going to happen on that evening. Right now we have it scheduled from 4 to 8 p.m. and it's really important that we all attend. So I look forward to seeing you guys there. Amy Cohen and I are going to get underway with planning that. And we have a few things that we'll manage that evening. Probably the most important thing we're going to do there is set our goals for the next year. And those goals should toggle into the strategic plan. And so if you guys want to reach out ahead of time, let Amy and I know what you're thinking about the planning of the retreat. If there's anything that you want us to consider, just you can email me. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and I think that this is in the meeting materials, is that we have the subcommittees established for the coming year. And so if you guys look in the materials, you'll see those assignments. There are two of there's one subcommittee and one advisory that we're going to need to rethink the so-called charge of the subcommittee or advisory. But for the most part, I think that this is what it's going to look like. So we're not really going to debate this tonight or discuss it, but if there's anything that looks off to you or any advice that you'd like to give on this, just reach out to me. I think that I've kind of touched base with each one of you, and I think we're all on board. So you guys can start planning these meetings. If you want to come up with a calendar for the entire year, feel free to do that. Just give it to Alita and she'll plug it into the school committee calendar that she maintains on the website. Or you can kind of plan as you go those meetings. But the first meeting that you have, you should elect your chair and your secretary. And then because the chair is responsible for making the agenda, for the very first meeting, somebody should just kind of take initiative and create an agenda, get it to Alita. Those need to be posted, of course, within 48 hours as well. Before the meeting, they can all be virtual. And then the secretary will keep the minutes. And after the next meeting, when you approve minutes, you then send them to Alita once they're approved. All right. And so I think that's all I had to say about that. The one thing that I will say is that the personnel subcommittee, I have taken initiative to plan our first meeting. So that is getting underway. And that's largely because our charge is to establish the superintendent's goals to assist Kirk in that process. If anyone has anything that they would like to share with regard to the superintendent goals, please reach out to me, email me alone, and I will make sure to bring whatever you're thinking to the next personnel subcommittee meeting, which will happen in August. All right. Not seeing any hands. Everybody's cool with that? All right, so now we're going to get to the meat of the meeting here, and that is the new business item. The first thing that we are going to do is consider the prospect of incurring debt for the new Neshoba Regional High School. We do have a motion we have a motion for that, but before we put the motion on the table, I'd like to turn it over to the superintendent. He has a presentation, I believe, for us to give us some context on what we're voting for and the impact of that on our neighbors. So Kirk, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Ms. Masterson, I'll cue you when it's time to share the screen for the video presentation. I want to thank this committee. I want to also thank all the residents, the employees of the Neshoba Regional School District, our community members, our families. This is a seminal moment in the history of our school system. In 2013, we did recognize in Neshoba that our building was beginning to fall into repair, for which we needed state assistance. And that was the first time that Neshoba reached out to the MSBA. And at the time, they had a science lab rehab program for which ultimately we did not participate. But continuing communications with the MSB after that resulted in the school committee, resulted in there was another piece that happened is this school committee formed a space study group that was looking at the time, there was a high population of students of enrollment in our high school, and they wanted to look at available spaces as well as the quality of those spaces. Concurrently, in 2015, NEAS, the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, came out with their accreditation and accredited Neshoba, but signaled to us at that time that the spaces in our building and the age of our building was not meeting the current standards of that environment, and that we needed to begin forming a plan to address those issues. So in 2018, this body authorized the superintendent to apply to the MSBA for the very first time to do a feasibility study to understand, should we repair the building, look at an add renovation project, or ultimately a new school? And we were denied in that first time. It was the second time we applied in 2019 that the MSBA did approve us for feasibility. And that should signal to us the condition of the school at the time, as many school districts have to take several bites at the apple before they're far enough up the line with the MSBA that they get their projects approved. And so from there, we were able to, through our warrant articles, approve costs of the feasibility study. bring on our OPM and our architect. And through the processes of which you all have been very much involved this year, we find ourselves today at this moment, the day where we make a decision to vote to incur debt for the possible construction of a new high school. And Ms. Masterson, with that introduction, will you please bring up the video for the benefit of our committee and our community?
Is there supposed to be volume?
It appears there's no sound at the moment.
There isn't volume?
No, we're not hearing any sound, Alita.
When you share your screen, there's a share sound button that has to be checked in order for it to come through. It's like a safety feature.
Oh, I did that. Let me try this again.
Excuse me, that was me.
All right, let's try this again.
Today we stand at a critical juncture that will shape the future of education for the children in our towns of Bolton, Lancaster, and Stowe. The decision we face revolves around the future of the high school learning experience, a decision that requires us to consider the state of our current aging building and the opportunities that lie ahead. Let us take a moment to reflect on how far we have come since the opening of Neshoba Regional High School in 1961. Back then, the economy centered around industrial production, and our educational system was designed to prepare our students for jobs of that era. However, times have changed dramatically, and we find ourselves in a rapidly evolving world, driven by technology, digitalization, and sustainability. The World Economic Forum's The Future of Jobs report emphasizes the importance of technology adoption and the growing need for cognitive skills such as critical thinking and complex problem solving. It is our moral and ethical responsibility to ensure that our students are equipped with the skills and competencies necessary to navigate this ever-changing landscape. A new Neshoba Regional High School presents an opportunity to meet these needs. It will be designed to prepare our students for a future where they will be leaders in technology, sustainability, artificial intelligence, and more. This state-of-the-art school will provide a learning environment that fosters innovation, collaboration, and creativity, nurturing the critical skills our students need for success in the 21st century. Education is the cornerstone of progress, and a new high school will invigorate our educators, inspire our students, and provide educational stability for generations to come. By investing in learning and on-the-job training, we can ensure that our students are prepared to meet challenges of a rapidly changing world. Moreover, a new high school will not only benefit our students, but also enhance the overall development of our three towns. It will serve as a multifunctional space for community use, hosting events, performances, and workshops that enrich our cultural experiences. The Media Center will become a hub for information exchange, promoting digital literacy for all ages. Additionally, recreation facilities like pickleball courts will encourage physical activity and social interaction, promoting a healthy lifestyle for both students and community members. A new high school will also be designed to accommodate the needs of our seniors in our community. By offering lifelong learning programs and providing spaces for community gatherings, we can ensure that our seniors remain engaged and connected. To build a new high school, we have the support of the Massachusetts School Building Authority, a state-funded grant organization that participates in funding school construction projects. Our towns have already passed a warrant article to support the feasibility study, which has identified structural and mechanical issues that local maintenance cannot address. We have considered various options, including base repair, addition renovation, as well as new construction. The preferred solution is new construction, and it best meets the criteria of the MSBA and provides a modern learning environment for our students. The total cost of construction is estimated to be $241,714,926, with the MSBA supporting $64,811,362 of the project, leaving an estimated taxpayer share of $176,903,564. As we move forward, let us keep in mind the accreditation standards set forth by the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, emphasizing the need for safe, secure, and adequately sized spaces that support student learning and the curriculum. Our decision today will have a profound impact on the education and future of our children and community as a whole. Let us choose wisely, invest in the potential of our students, and ensure that Neshoba Regional High School remains a beacon of progress and excellence for decades to come. As we move forward on this transformative journey, let us embrace the challenges and seize the opportunities. Together, we can create a bright future for our children and a legacy of excellence for generations to come. Thank you for your attention, and may we move forward together on this transformative journey for our community and its future generations. Thank you, Ms. Masterson. And so it's at this point in the evening, I would like to turn the presentation over to Mr. Mulcairn, and he will present you with current financing estimates as we move forward with the project. Mr. Mulcairn.
Thank you, Superintendent Downing, and thank you to the school committee. I'm going to share my screen now. I consider it an absolute privilege to present the information enclosed in the slides ahead to you this evening as part of a building project that has tremendous potential for our outstanding students and our amazing communities. The purpose of this presentation is simple, and that is to provide the school committee with an estimate of borrowing costs based on available data and figures received from our financial advisors. As you are aware, the estimated total building cost stands at $241,714,926, with an MSBA reimbursement figure of $64,811,362. This results in a total cost to the taxpayers of $176,903,564. Using the regional agreement and enrollment data from FY24, and you can see the breakdown of percentages next to each town, the estimated share per community is as follows. For the town of Bolton, $56,379,165. For the town of Lancaster, $58,325,105. And for the town of Stowe, $62,199,293. So, some key understandings that I want to bring forward as we move forward in our slides this evening. As project budget estimates were being developed, the district began a series of meetings with our financial advisors. Both the school committee approved project budget and the OPM provided draft cash flows were provided to our financial advisors. And our financial advisors have provided the district administration with 3 borrowing options. Those options will be provided to our bond advisory subcommittee for feedback as the district determines the borrowing strategy moving forward. The bonding amount is based on the project cost less the MSBA maximum total facilities grant, which is the reimbursement. Estimates based on these fiscal assumptions of current market conditions do not mean that we have either locked in a rate or a term at this point, and assumptions may change over time based on conditions outside the control of the district between today and the finalization of bonding. The finalized cost to taxpayers via the annual district debt assessment will not be known until the completion of the building project, as we are working with our total project estimates. And the annual capital debt assessments over the life of the bond will be defined according to the regional agreement. The 3 options presented to us have been bond the total project at the cost, bond the total project cost at the start of the project as option A, bond the project in 2 different portions, which would be 2 years apart for start dates as option B, and then as option C, using annual notes with a full bond at the conclusion of construction. So being presented to you today is an estimated tax assessment per household. This estimate is based on a number of factors. Number 1, the total project cost. Number 2, the previously discussed MSBA reimbursement. We are looking this evening at the option A, which means bonding the entire project at the start of construction to give you a sense of the estimates. We're using an assumed interest rates of between 4 and 4.5% with a 30-year term as a maximum, and still using the regional agreement and FY24 enrollment data to understand our percentages amongst the communities. So what does this mean for our households based on some data? You see before you median residential assessments for each of our 3 member towns. Using the median residential assessment and then applying figures provided by our financial advisors, we have the following. For a Bolton median residential assessment of $712,172, the annual increase estimate would be between $1,550 and $1,750. In Lancaster, for a median residential assessment of $456,209, results in an annual increase estimate of $1,150 to $1,350. And lastly, for the town of Stowe, a median residential assessment of $640,760 results in an annual increase estimate of $1,300 to $1,500. We've seen other towns present information in terms of what does that mean per day, and we've done that here. For Bolton, based on the previous slide, that would mean $4.25 to $4.79 per day for that median assessed household. For Lancaster, $3.15 to $3.70 per day, and for Stowe, $3.56 to $4.11 per day. I thank you for your time for this presentation, and I'm going to turn it back over to Superintendent Downing.
Thank you, Mr. Mulcairn. I appreciate that. So now that we've had a chance to see some of the numbers, Ms. Masterson will be posting this presentation onto the meeting materials of this meeting. Please forgive us for not having that to you. We literally got these the final numbers on these things from our estimators this evening around the 5 o'clock hour, as well as we had a meeting with the MSBA just yesterday. I do want to let this committee know that we are taking a vote on this prior to the MSBA's authorization. Was well within board. They're meeting on August 30th and understood the structure of the timelines for us to have town meetings and elections in September. We needed to come together to take this vote today to meet those expectations. So the motion that you have before you tonight is a motion that has been that was sent to us using the model language of the MSBA, has been reviewed by our district attorney, by our bond attorney, as well as we have turned it back to the MSBA, and they had their internal attorney review the motion as well. And so at the conclusion of this evening, if we're to vote the affirmative of incurring the debt, our secretary, Attorney Gleason, is charged with notifying the select boards of all 3 towns. Attorney Gleason, we have prepared a letter to each of those boards in the event that indeed it were to pass. And those letters have been vetted and crafted by Attorney Mello, the district's attorney. And so I turn it back to the committee, Madam Chair, for any questions.
All right, so I think it might be wise to take the motion first unless there are any objections. All right, so Amy, I'll turn it to you for the motion.
Okay, this is a lot of, it's going to take a little bit of time to read it all, but the motion is that the Neshoba Regional School District hereby appropriates the amount of $241,714,926 for the purpose of paying costs of a new Neshoba Regional High School, 12 Green Road, Bolton, Massachusetts, 01740, including site work and athletic fields, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, the quote-unquote project, which school facility shall have an anticipated useful life as an educational facility for the instruction of school children of at least 50 years, and for which the district may be eligible for a school construction grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, quote unquote, the MSBA, said amount to be expended at the direction of the school building committee. To meet this appropriation, the district is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Chapter 71, Section 16D of the general laws and the district agreement as amended or pursuant to any other enabling authority. The district acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need as determined by the MSBA, and any project costs the district incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the district. Provided further that any grant that the district may receive from the MSBA shall not exceed the lesser of 55 and 9/100%, 59.09% of eligible approved project costs as determined by the MSBA, or 2, the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA, and that the amount of the borrowing authorized pursuant to this vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in the project funding agreement that may be executed between the district and the MSBA. The action authorized via this vote shall be subject to and contingent upon MSBA Board of Directors vote to approve the total project scope and budget as submitted. Quote, the MSBA vote, unquote, which MSBA vote presently is scheduled to occur on August 30th, 2023. There's more. Should I read that too, Leah, about
Yes.
further voted? Okay.
Yes.
Further voted that within 7 days from the date on which this vote is adopted, the secretary be and hereby is instructed to notify the Board of Selectmen and each of the member towns of this district as to the amount and general purposes of the debt herein authorized as required by the district agreement and by Chapter 71, Section 16D of the general laws.
I'll second that and congratulate Amy on that wonderful reading.
Thank you.
You guys, no, that was great, Amy. So I think that you guys know that the motion is in the chat if you want to reference it. I'm going to open this up to discussion at this point. So just raise your golden hand if you have any questions or comments. Mike.
Yep, just a point of clarification. I know that the amount of debt incurred is going to be based on our interest rate, and I'm wondering if we know what our bond rating is, what the district's bond rating is.
Mr.
Kirk,
McCann?
Go ahead, Ross.
So it stands right now at AA2, but we would be most likely, I can't imagine we wouldn't be looking at redoing our bond rating prior to going into the market or as part of going into the market.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by redoing our bond rating?
So essentially it would be we've used Moody's in the past, so whether it's Moody's or Standards & Poor's, but we would have to go back into that process. My understanding would be we'd be going back into that process prior to, so I can't guarantee any rating at this point based on that information that I've been told through asking questions about this process.
Got it.
And I do believe that'll be a requirement of securing the bond ultimately, that a review of our rating.
And so these numbers are based upon the current rating, although the rating could change. Do we know if it's likely to change, or is that something we can even predict?
I would not predict or speculate anything at this point.
Okay.
Ross's numbers are based on assumed interest rates, and we can't determine what the interest rates are going to be at this point in time.
Right. Any other questions? Joe.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is the most minorest of minorest points, but this will be memorialized for all eternity. I would suggest that with regards to Ms. Cohen's motion, that we strike the phrase "further voted." What Ms. Cohen was reading was essentially the vote certification, not the motion. So the motion should read that further moved that within 7 days from the date of which this vote is adopted, blah, blah, blah. So Ms. Cohen, I think you should just strike that so that the record reflects that we didn't vote on something we didn't vote on yet. Or we didn't agree to something we didn't vote on yet.
Amy, are you okay changing the word voted to moved?
Absolutely. Thank you, Attorney Gleason.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe. Any other comments or questions? Jackie.
I appreciated the breakdown of the daily and the annual amount. I think that is really consumable for residents of our towns. I'm just curious, so that would be over the course of how many years?
Our estimates are based on using a 30-year term, which my understanding would be the maximum that we could do.
Okay, Scott.
Just so I understand procedurally, once we approve this, assuming we approve this, what do the towns need to do in order to incur the debt? Like, what are the additional steps necessary to actually incur the debt?
So similar to what we did in 1998, I believe the last time that we took out a loan to fix the high school, the towns could do absolutely nothing and just allow us to incur the debt. That's what Mass General Law says. However, it's in the town's best interest to check this by the people. And so each town is going to hold a special town meeting on September 18th to give the townspeople of each individual town the opportunity to approve our vote tonight or vote it down. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but every single warrant, town meeting warrant that requires this amount of debt, it then needs to go to a special town election and it needs to pass a ballot vote as well, which is scheduled on September 23rd for Stowe and the 25th for Lancaster and Bolton.
Madam Chair, I think you hit 95% of it. I'll just fill in a little color if you don't mind. The formalities around it would be once our secretary were to notify the three chairs of the select boards, they have 60 days in which they would hold the town meeting. And so those dates that the chair mentioned to you are dates that would have to be voted on by each of the select boards. And so their next meetings are in the third week of August, as the time that we will also be appearing before their boards. They'll set the dates. The recommended dates are the public dates that are out there on our calendars and have been shared already. So that would be a formality at that point. But ultimately, it comes down to incurring the debt for Stowe on September 23rd, for Bolton and Lancaster on September 25th.
Does that help, Scott? Do we cover it all?
Yes, although I do have a separate follow-up question.
Sure, go ahead.
So, are we currently accredited by NEASC?
We are currently accredited by NAABC. Our decennial comes up in 2025.
And if we don't build the school, are we at risk of losing that certification?
Mr. Powell, that was an outstanding question. They've indicated us that we would be at risk. They don't ever write in terms of you will lose or you will gain your accreditation. Their standards were updated in 2020, and currently our spaces would not meet the standards as written in the accreditation standards. And so ultimately it would be up to their determination. But it is my interpretation that yes, we would be indeed at risk of losing our accreditation if we did not meet the standards as laid out by those standards.
Do you have any idea what the ramifications of losing certification might be?
Mr. Powell, another great question. It's difficult to say what the exact ramifications of that would be. I would really have to have the crystal ball to understand that. But as I've been sharing with the community groups which I've spoken with, is that the kind of risk we want to take as a community, to dive into the unknown of what that means for our high school, our graduates, but also for the value of our community. So while it would be at risk, I can't say with certain what the outcome of losing that accreditation would be.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks. Over to Jackie.
I know it's been discussed at previous meetings, but in case community members are watching or watch in the future, could you talk through what would happen if there is a disagreement amongst the three towns in terms of voting to incur the debt?
Thank you, Dr. Reiner. If in the event that as we go to the voters in September, assuming approval this evening, we have 120 days from the MSBA vote, which occurs on August 30th. That essentially takes us near the end of the school year. 120 days to secure our funding. So that would give us time to move to Chapter 7116N of Mass General Law, which allows us to have a regional vote. That would have to come at the cost of the school district, and it would be an aggregate vote of all three towns to approve the project. What I would say, Dr. Reiner, is that we have to demonstrate approval of the project and ability to fund. So we would have to have the debt exclusion election. The towns would have to have a debt exclusion election the second time if that were to occur. That would all have to be completed within that 120-day window. And in the event that we were not to be able to do that, there is an appeal we could make to the MSBA to have that extended. But we would have to show warranted evidence of why the vote didn't fail and have a strategic plan of how we intend to convince our voters to pass it at that point. If ultimately that were not to be successful, then we are left with a school that is falling into disrepair, at risk of losing our accreditation, of which if we simply repaired it would cost us $120 million in today's dollars, and would not fix the issues that are mentioned in the accreditation report from 2015, because we cannot increase the classroom sizes that were designed for an industrial age to make it the size of classrooms for a technological age and for all the activities we prescribed. So at that point, I would forecast that the project to simply even repair would be greater than the cost of what it would be today, due to the cost of escalation in the construction sector. So we really are faced with the question today of saying, as a community, we know we have to repair our building. Do we want to repair the building at cost greater, frankly, than $120 million, or have and still be at risk of not having accreditation and not having appropriate classroom sizes, or fund a new construction at the taxpayer share of $176 million?
Marianne, add to that.
Yes, I'm going to read this so I get it correctly. In Module 5, under the Section 5.2.4, failed votes. In the event that the local funding vote fails, the district must, within 10 business days of the failed vote, submit a plan to the MSBA that 1, presents the vote results. 2, explains the district's understanding of why the vote failed. And 3, sets forth the district's plan to remedy the failed vote and a suggested timeline for such a remedy. The MSBA will review the plan and determine whether it can continue to set aside funds for the project. In the event that the MSBA Board of Directors votes to remove the project from the capital pipeline as a result of a failed vote, the district would then be required to submit a new statement of interest for the project and await a second invitation from the MSBA to conduct a feasibility study.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. And I would like to add, if that were the case, as I described in the story earlier today, our first engagement with the MSBA to even enter into this eligibility for feasibility happened in 2018. If we return to the end of the line of the MSBA, we could forecast not being back to this point for another 5-6 years. And I would ask our community to think about, what are the escalating costs of construction going to be at that time? It will be a far much more expensive building than it would be if we executed this vote and approved the project today.
I would also add that in the intervening years, I would argue that we wouldn't be back here in 6 years. It could be 10 years.
Yes.
They don't look favorably, I don't think, on districts that get this far down there. So, they might not bring us back to the front of the line anytime soon. And so let's say that it's 10 years out. The roof needs to be repaired. The parking lot is not suitable, the size-wise. There are some limitations in the existing conditions report there too. All of the windows need to be replaced. All of the doors need to be replaced. And these are just safety concerns. And that needs to happen now. This building is going to continue to drain our bank accounts for years to come if we don't just do what perhaps should have been done 20 years ago and replace the whole darn thing. So as expensive as this is, and nobody likes that part, I would argue that there is no option on the table here. Anybody who considers voting no on this is really doing, not doing a service to our towns in the long term. And we really do need to be long-term thinking and very strategic about this decision right now. So if anybody has any other comments or questions, feel free. All right, I'm sure that there'll be lots of discussion going forward between now and the next couple of meetings. So why don't we go to the roll? So I'm going to start with Mr. Gleason.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Amy Cohen.
Yes.
Dana.
Yes.
Shondor.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
Sharon. Yes. Mike.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
And Amy Vessels.
Yes.
It's unanimous. Very good. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Marianne, for all of your hard work. Thank you, Kirk and Joe and everybody else who's worked so hard on all of this. It's definitely been a team effort and many years in the making. So again, we have a lot of work to do over the next 6 to 7 weeks. So definitely stay tuned. And I hope people get involved and ask questions and try to understand more about the project. Kirk.
Madam Chair, thank you. I just want to let this committee and our community know that Mr. Mulcair and I will be giving this presentation the third week of August. We'll be presenting to the Lancaster Select Board on August 21st. We will be presenting to the Stowe Select Board on August 22nd and the Bolton Select Board on August 24th. In addition, since our last meeting, Bolton Access Television has invited us in to talk about and describe the process. And so we'll be visiting with them next week. And so those videos will then be run on Bolton Access Television and pushed out through our social media activities, which we have already cleared and vetted with the ethics office. And so we look forward to seeing those moments.
Excellent. Thanks, Kirk. Amy.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to encourage members of the public who might be wanting to find more information about the project to go on our website. There's a ton of information on the building project website that is there for everybody to access. There's a great list of frequently asked questions that can really get to the heart of what most people want to know, and also let folks know to put on their calendar September 11th for the next public forum, where there will be an opportunity to ask questions directly to the superintendent, the architect, the OPM, and members of the building committee, which is a week before the votes at the towns. And so it'll be a great time to get any more questions that are out there answered.
Great. Thanks. Sharon?
I think, is there another date scheduled to tour the high school? Is there another one in September?
There is.
Yes, there is, Ms. Pock, on September, Ms. Cohen, that's the 9th, right? Saturday the 9th, there will be 2 tours. We'll have tours, I believe, at 10 o'clock. And Mr. Frieswick has actually asked us to push the second tour back to 1 o'clock because the tour we did in April did take almost 2 hours. So there will be those 2 tours. I would also like the community and this committee to know that I will be appearing at the Council on Aging in all 3 towns prior to the public forum on September 9th. On September 11th, excuse me.
If I can just add, I went on that tour in April. It is well worth it to go and see, just walk through the building and see the different areas where you can see history in there. You can see how things have evolved over time, and you can see where the challenges are. It's well worth the time to go and really see what it's like.
Yeah. Can I just add that there is a form that you can sign up on the website to let people know that you're planning on attending that tour. And the list of all these dates is also listed on the calendar for the building project website. So if you're, listening in your car and you can't jot down these dates, you can find them there.
Great. Okay, everybody. Thanks so much for that. We have one more item, fairly quick item of new business here, that is to authorize the superintendent and myself to sign Exhibit A and Exhibit H of the project scope and budget agreement. This is perhaps a perfunctory task that the school committee is engaging in right now, but the school building committee thought it prudent that all things ultimately are approved by the district committee and not just the school building committee. So, Joe, would you mind just giving or teeing this up just a little bit more?
Actually, I'm going to call on Mary Ann to give us the lowdown on Exhibits A and Exhibit H and the necessity for authorization of execution thereof. So, Mary Ann, as we discussed, I'm going to throw it to you and let you handle that one.
Okay, very good. So we have been in conversations. We had this week a meeting with the Mass School Building Authority to review the project scope and budget. And they call it the Project Scope and Budget Conference. So it is what it sounds like. We talk about their understanding of the scope of work, the square footages, reimbursement, what the overall budget is, schedule, and the percentage of reimbursement. So there is a recommendation that's going to the Mass School Building Authority board from the project manager at the Mass School Building Authority to put us on the agenda for having our project scope and budget submission approved. They will be following up after that meeting, a little bit of change over time, but they'll be following up after that meeting, sending a template. Well, actually, the template's on the website, but sending a template that's populated, standard work with, the name of the district, the date of the meeting, that you have 120 days to approve the project, what the total project cost is, what the reimbursement rate is of eligible cost, that 55% 0.09%. And that document is to be executed by the district, as well as an affirmative vote to be the vote result sent to the Mass School Building Authority. So that will be happening in September.
And so, so that the school committee understands, the school building committee has recommended that we vote to authorize the superintendent and the chairperson, myself, to sign and execute this agreement.
Correct.
All right, so Amy is ready with a motion.
Yes, I put this one in the chat too, and it's I move to authorize the superintendent / CEO and school committee chairperson to sign Exhibit A and Exhibit H of the project scope and budget agreement.
I'll second that. Any discussion or questions? Scott?
I'm uncomfortable approving this because I don't really know what I'm approving. I'm basically saying you guys can sign some documents without having documented or, you know, any written parameters around what can or cannot be included in those documents. And so this feels rather open-ended to me. Marianne wants to say something.
Oh, go ahead, Marianne.
Yes. So what I want to say is the board of directors of the Mass School Building Authority will vote to approve the project scope and budget agreement, and then you will have a document that's already been approved by it will be sent from the MSBA to the district for it to be executed. So you're not voting on the just strictly the exhibits. You're voting on the entire project scope and budget agreement,
which is the total.
So there's a couple of places to sign. You sign the agreement. You sign the Exhibit A, which is the total project budget, and it spells out the reimbursement, the dollars, the full breakdown of the budget.
And all of that was what we looked at the last joint meeting.
Correct. And we will have a final document from the MSBA after they complete their review. Their review is not 100% complete right now.
Got it. I think Amy's hand was next, unless you want to defer to Kirk.
Yeah, I was going to defer to Kirk.
Go ahead, Kirk.
And Ms. Williams, you can correct me, but Mr. Powell, it's a requirement of the superintendent and the school committee chair to sign these documents. Our board last week just took the extra step to say, well, let's just make that sure that the committee then endorses that indeed. But it's actually just a requirement, both the superintendent and the school chair sign off on these documents. So a vote is not required by the MSBA for us to do that. It is this committee saying, let's do our due diligence and just make sure the committee is fully formed and we can memorialize that through a vote.
Amy, did you want to say something else?
Well, I guess I just wanted to clarify, like, Leah, this is already a kind of a duty of the chairperson of the school committee to sign documents on behalf of the school committee. Like, for example, with contract negotiations, I think that was kind of implicit that in other documents that come before the school committee, the chairperson signs those. So I guess in my mind, I don't really see this as any different than our operating protocols already call for. But then, so could you just confirm that for me?
Yeah, that's for sure. I sign all kinds of things, the ban removal, various documents, but I think also Exhibit A and Exhibit H are basically just the total budget, which we just approved through the vote that we just took, right, Marianne? And then the scope is something that has been shared with the committee over time. but it's certainly not something, I mean, I'm not a construction professional, so. I wouldn't
It's the
be able-
schematic, it's the schematic design package. It's basically saying this is the size of the building. It's, you know, it's probably a 2,000-page report. And so that has already been reviewed and approved. The report is a report on everything that has been taking place in the study over the last 8 months for the schematic design. So it's the document, the MSBA requires the document to be executed to proceed, just like they required the statement of interest to be executed before they would review it.
Right, so the school committee has been privy to the information that's you're going to be signing off on. This is just kind of
They will receive it and have an opportunity to review this information. It's like
they being the school committee. Does that mean?
Once the information comes from the MSBA, you folks will be able to review the document. It's standard boilerplate information. Joe, I did forward.
Yeah, Marianne, maybe it would be helpful if you just shared the document, Exhibit H and Exhibit A. I concur with you with regards to the project scope and budget agreement. That's standard form boilerplate. You can go right onto the MSBA website and you can see their standard language. It's available for anybody to look at. But the exhibits are crafted attended to this particular project. So if you can pull those up very quickly, they're going to be hard to read. They're very detailed and small, but might help some of the members if they saw those documents before we vote.
Okay, let me see if I can do this here.
I'm having increasing difficulty understanding why we're being asked for this, because, you know, if Chair Viverito and Superintendent Downing sign things all the time, and if we've already approved all of the elements of these attachments these exhibits that they're being asked to sign, and we're going to have an opportunity to review the documents before they get signed, why are we being asked to approve this now?
Well, because Scott, the authority, the locus of control here is with the district committee, not with the subcommittee. And so the subcommittee made the recommendation, or rather approved and supported us signing and executing this document and keeping the ball rolling. And then we hit pause and wondered, you know, should we just make sure that the district committee is aware that this next step is being taken? And in the past, we have done that as well. It is ultimately it might feel like a rubber stamp, but because the district committee is the one that is in charge of the project ultimately, we thought it best to step it out and back to the committee and say, our subcommittee has recommended that we execute this agreement. Are you okay with that? And that is why the vote is here. So Joe, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm just going to echo your sentiments exactly. I mean, this came up for deliberation at our last building committee meeting. There was some dissent from some of the members that felt that there wasn't any necessity for a authorization vote from the building committee. But ultimately, the matter was moved, seconded, and it was voted unanimously that the committee be given authority to vote, or the committee grant authority to the chair and to the superintendent to execute those exhibits. I frankly supported our chair's decision on that. She's the one that moved it at the meeting, and I think it's a good check and balance on what the building committee is doing. So I fully supported it at the building committee meeting, and I fully support it here. I'm in favor of voting for this right now.
Thanks, Joe. So Marianne, do you want to just scroll a little bit so we can see?
I am having trouble. I can see it here, but I can't see it on the screen.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully this helps. We can also, can these be put into the meeting materials yet, Marianne?
Yes, I forwarded the information to Joe. Joe could actually forward that email to folks.
I'll send it to Alita right after the meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I wanted, one thing that you clarified for me at the school building committee meeting is that the MSBA is the one who approves this. And basically they are the ones who tell us that this is the scope, right?
Well, we provide the documentation from the architect, the engineers, et cetera, that this is the scope. These are the estimates that support the drawings and narratives. And that, because we're at a schematic design level, we'll still have another 16 months of design after this to complete the documents. But basically, we're establishing in concept, this is the building, this is the square footage, this is the educational plan, and that the MSBA, through their review, is expressing what their participation will be based on our submission. And the board will authorize the executive director to send a project scope and budget agreement. It's a contract to the Neshoba Regional School District for their review and execution. Somebody has to sign it. And on that, they call out the chair of the school committee, the chair of the school building committee, and the superintendent/CEO. That's for Exhibit A, and then for the overall agreement, there's room for one signature.
Madam Chair, I have forwarded those documents to the school committee via email.
Great. And they'll go up on the meeting materials as well. Perhaps it will be a good use of about 5 minutes or maybe less to give people a chance to pull that up on their email accounts so that they might feel totally comfortable taking this vote, whichever way they vote. Feel free to ask questions if you have them. Two more minutes.
Can I ask a point of clarification?
Please.
So I know in the sample, it references several purple spots, superintendent, that say like August 30th, and then there's a specific facilities grant. So that is what we would see in the actual document?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't fill out the contract, but I just wanted folks to understand a certain few key places. But the 19 pages is standard boilerplate language. This is what they use.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, the total facilities grant number listed on page 6, I think is different than the number that was included in Superintendent Downing's presentation. I don't know, it seems like it's a little less, and I don't know if that's because is it still in flux, or is it not incorporating the MSBA Green Schools policy number, or am I missing something?
These are draft documents, Ms. Cohen. These agreements will come out after the MSBA vote.
Yeah, the difference is the number on page 6 is before it's the total facilities grant, and then below that we carry almost $3 million in contingencies. And then they're showing that further participation for those contingencies go from the 63.1 million to the 64.8 million.
I see that now. Thank you for clarifying.
Right.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Everybody ready for a vote? Can I get a thumbs up if we're all good? Ready to vote? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of thumbs. Okay, thanks, guys. So on the motion on the table, I vote yes. Joe?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Scott?
No.
Amy? Vessels?
Yes.
Shondor?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Okay, guys, so that is it for our new business tonight, and I thank you for sticking with us. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my windows straight. I see nothing else but a motion to adjourn. Can I get one?
So moved.
Thanks, Amy. Do I have a second?
Second.
And I will take the vote. I vote yes. Joe?
Yes.
Amy Cohen?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Amy Vessels?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Sharon? That was a yes.
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
And Mike?
Shoot, I forgot. Yes.
Hold on. Guys, I'm going to practice my Pledge of Allegiance later tonight. As if I don't say it every day. But enjoy the summer. Thank you for coming in tonight. We'll see you on the 23rd.
I'm yes too.
Oh, Shondor, I'm sorry. You get to stay. You keep the Zoom open. All right, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Adios.